you're an eager high school senior ready for college, so you talk to your counselor, and this is when you realize that you can't apply for college because you don't have a social security number. You've been living in a country that you thought was yours, but it turns out it's not. Suddenly all the windows are shut and you have no more opportunities. And the worst part is you can only blame your parents. Well, this is a reality for 1.5 million undocumented students in the United States, according to the 2000 US Census. This was 12 years ago, mind you, so I can only believe that this number is larger in 2012. Only 65,000 of these students graduate high school. That's less than 5%. And in the state of Iowa alone, there are about 9,000 to about 14,000 undocumented students in Iowa, according to the Pew Hispanic Center. 5 to 10% of these students went to college, and which is still a very small number as well. According to Dr. Robert Gonzalez, a professor in sociology at University of Washington, says that these students can be grouped into what's called the 1.5 generation. This generation, they were brought along by their parents, they grew up in America, they're culturally American, and had very little attachment to their home country. Remember that these undocumented students have high aspirations just like you and me. They have high achievements just like you and me. And they want to go to college, but they simply can't because they can't apply or they can't afford for college tuition. Instead, these students are forced to settle down to become a nobody in society. So today, we will examine the problems undocumented students face throughout the United States, and focusing in Iowa, and how a federal or state level DREAM Act will solve the issue and increase the socio-economic status of the Latino community in the United States. Next slide. First, we will examine the problems undocumented students face throughout the United States. I'll start with Pollard versus Doe in 1982, and then we'll talk about college admission policies, college tuition policies, and the federal state financial aid policies that are in place. So in 1982, the U.S. Supreme Court in Pollard versus Doe passed a 5-4 vote, which is very slim, said that all children, regardless of immigration status, are guaranteed access to education kindergarten to 12th grade. Because denying these kids an education would be like punishing them for the actions of their parents. However, they did not address post-secondary education, which creates a false hope. Most of these high school graduates, after coming out of high school, think to themselves, now what? I can't be a productive citizen because I can't drive, I can't vote, and I can't even work. And the worst thing is that most of these students can be deported back to a country that they don't even know, because English is their first language as well. The second problem is college admission policies, which are up to the universities or state to decide, because there are no federal or state laws saying issuing this problem. In fact, 3 states have banned admission of undocumented students at some colleges or all public colleges. To name these states are Alabama, South Carolina, and Georgia. Here at Iowa State University, however, you do not need a social security number to send an application. Even though they can apply, there are still some barriers to apply to Iowa State University, namely tuition. Undocumented students cannot afford college due to tuition and financial aid eligibility. Like college admission policies, there are no state or federal laws addressing these, so it is up to the college to determine their own policies. There are some states that do grant in-state tuition, namely California, Illinois, Kansas, and Utah, but these states have larger demographics of undocumented immigrants and can provide in-state tuition. Minnesota and Nevada, however, provide in-state and half tuition, which is a little bit more, but not as much as out-of-state tuition. And then all the other states, such as Iowa, don't have any laws about tuition. Financial aid eligibility is only provided in 2 states, New Mexico and Texas. And according to Mark Harding, Assistant Vice President of Admissions at Iowa State University, it is basically financially impossible to afford college without financial aid and with out-of-state tuition here at Iowa State. Because of the barriers that these students experience getting into post-secondary education, this discourages them to even apply to college. And with little incentive to finish high school, This leads to higher dropout rates and the potential to become involved in gang and illegal activity. So we have examined how Plyler versus Doe has left 65,000 undocumented high school graduates with empty hopes, and how college admission and tuition policies across the United States and financial aid eligibility has left these students unable to continue on to post-secondary education. I will share with you what I believe is the solution to these issues. I believe that in order to provide justice and equal opportunity, Congress must pass the DREAM Act, which is a federal level act that called the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors. I'm not too happy with the name of the DREAM Act because it has alien minors in it, but that's a different issue. But it addresses undocumented immigrants growing up in the United States and that wish to go to college. But due to time, I'm going to stop my part of the presentation. There's still a lot more to it. Unfortunately, I can't share it with you. We'll go to the next part.
Okay, I was going to briefly talk on the objectification of what we perceive as immigrants in the United States. This is Martha Nussbaum, and she does a brief, she wrote an article on what she believes objectification is in 2006. It's coming mostly from a feminist lens and feminist perspective, so she's talking more about objectification of women, but in it she argues that in order for objectification, one or multiple of the following have to be there. Instrumentality, so treating something like a tool; denial of autonomy, treating something like it doesn't have its self-determination; inertness, the thing is treated as lacking agency; ownership, the thing is treated as if it's owned by another; fungibility, the thing is treated as if it's interchangeable; fallibility, the thing is treated as if it's permissible to damage or destroy; and denial of subjectivity, the thing is treated as if there's no need to show concern for the object's experiences or feelings.
We're just going to skip to Key's part.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so in order to tie all of this into how this applies to Latinos in America, we have a few facts or fictions that we're going to go through that pertains to everything that we've talked about in our PowerPoint thus far. So, fact or fiction, undocumented immigrants overburden our welfare system. Fiction, which is correct. And how that applies to Latinos is that there are a large number of Latino students that are actually Latino children that are undocumented, and the adult population actually makes up 4%. So the Latino adult population makes up 4% of the undocumented immigrants here in America, and a lot of those children are growing up without the assistance because their parents can't apply for the assistance. So a lot of people like to think that they're overburdening the welfare system. However, they can't apply for it even though some of the children are actual citizens of the United States. The second one is undocumented or documented immigrants are not contributing to the economy financially. Fiction. Correct. Actually, they do contribute billions of dollars to the economy, which they can't take part of as far as getting Medicaid, public assistance, health care, or anything like that. So it is something that is unbalanced because Latinos, even here in Iowa, they pay between 40 and 60 million in state taxes, and that's just here in Iowa alone, and they can't reap the benefits of any of that. The next one is undocumented workers are taking our jobs. Correct. Most of the jobs, like we touched on, or like the movie touched on, or short clip, I should say, touched on, is that a lot of the jobs that are taken by Latinos or immigrant workers are jobs that Americans normally wouldn't do because they feel like they're too good to do the jobs, or the jobs are extremely underpaid, or the working conditions are really bad. Most Latinos are immigrants. It is actually fiction. However, about 47% of immigrants are Latino, but considering that most would have to be 50 or more, that is actually fiction. Excellent. So yeah, that one is a little bit different. It has a different spin, but we'll skip that one. Most Latinos are undocumented.
Fiction.
Okay, I have it cut off, but that one is fiction as well. And only 19% of Latinos are undocumented. So.
It's just now 5:01, but do you want to share a
Just
few
about
comments
30
from the last group? Hassan?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it'd be nice if you had more time to present it. So it's a better idea.